Welcome into a new BuffStampede Radio. Adam Munsterteiger, the publisher of BuffStampede.com, joined by William Gardner. William, our wives and I are going to get together at Hacienda, Colorado soon. And I'm not going to share the time and date because there would be a line of people trying to get your autograph if I did.
Well, you get your autograph, they'd be lining up to punch me in the head.
No, they wouldn't. No, I have brought a lot of drama on myself here in the last few days, but and I want to share the full story. I shared it with you off the record, but Jason Shearer and All City Sports did the right thing in the last couple of days, and I got to bite my tongue here. I really respect Jason as a colleague. Like I want to respect everybody that I work with on the 24/7 Sports Network, and the young person that kind of spurred this will hopefully learn a lesson. It's funny though, because after I locked our mailbag thread on BuffStampede.com, AVL Buff asked, in light of the recent debate with Zona folks, who in your time covering the Buffs has earned the quote, Danny K. Purest Ho Lifetime Achievement Award? I'm sorry, I couldn't get through that without laughing. And he said in quotations, my money is on Hawk. You know me so well, AVL Buff. Yeah, Dan Hawkins. I've said this many times, like if Carl Jarrell was my neighbor, I'd be super pumped because there's not anything that's going to ever frustrate me. But when he came in the room, the energy dropped. With Hawk, it was just a skeezy feeling, man. Gosh, I really did not. I will say this. The worst day on this beat was I think the day before Thanksgiving when they announced that Dan Hawkins was coming back for a fifth season, and it took all the professionalism in me at that time to really kind of bite my tongue about how bad a move that was.
Yeah, that's crazy.
What about you, William?
Well, I don't interview anybody, but I mean, if I think you know who my Purist Ho Award is going to. Do I need to say the name? Danny. He said Danny L.
I want to do a podcast with you every day just to have this back and forth with you.
Yeah, I just look at his face, and he's just, I think you and I were talking. Maybe it was wrapping up the last podcast, or maybe it was off the record. But I was talking about what a quality guy Nick Saban is, and it's hard not to contrast him with Dan Lanning up in Oregon, who's just not a class guy at all, and so that'd be my pure hope. Prior to that, for generations, it was Tom Osborne, but he's only needs to be pushed over for somebody to tell him he's already been dead for 10 years.
Well, we've just crossed the threshold of unprofessionalism, and for whatever reason, I don't feel like apologizing for that. Let's dive into the mailbag. Questions that were brought to us before that thread got locked. Mintern Buff 19 asked, of the incoming transfers, who do you feel will be a surprise impact player? Who will be most likely to disappoint? I will let you lead off here, William.
Well, I guess it depends on what you mean by surprise. I don't know if he would be a surprise, but I got to tell you, the guy I got my eyes on is Chidozie Nwankwo at that inside defensive line position. I think a lot of people are going to write him off because he's 5'11", if he is 5'11". But what he did down there at Houston against P5 teams was eye-opening. And I think he's going to come up here and do that for us. And I think he's got a chip on his shoulder, which I truly love. People saying he can't do it with his size and whatever. And I think Nwankwo is going to be the guy that really stands out and does something. And then I guess if I had to pick a B, I think we touched on this in our last podcast. Torian Carter is a guy who showed the ability to get off blocks in the SEC and really make things happen. So he's another one on the defensive line that I'm really excited about. I don't know what was the other half was a disappointment or
Yeah. That's
most
a
like
rough one to put on
yeah,
somebody when they come in, right?
yeah. I think I'll skip that one. I mean, I think I my concerns, let me put it that way, have been made about the two offensive linemen that I think are significantly undersized, and we saw the problems with undersized offensive linemen last year. So those would be the two that I'm least excited about. Well, I wouldn't say I at least expect them to actually do something. I suppose, put it that way.
As bad as the offensive line was in 2023, uh, I think we're just not we're ignoring the fact that Hank Zielinskis was a true freshman last year, right?
Right,
And
and
actually
he
got
was
on the
real
field quite a bit and
right,
looked
and
pretty
was good.
good.
Looked
Yeah.
good. Looked good.
So
And well,
yeah,
I
I
guess
think
when
everybody
somebody
wants to just punt on that whole group, and I'm
right,
thinking, there's some good quality pieces in there.
right, and somebody asked us a question about that, which we'll get to, and we can go more into depth on those some of those guys. But yeah, so that would be Nwankwo is by far and away the guy I think that I'm really excited to see play.
I think Quincy Wiggins is a guy that is going to find his way and just flourish at Colorado. And I've talked to folks out at LSU, and everything that tells me that this is just the breaking point for him as a player in terms of an upward trajectory. And he's coming to Colorado to play a similar role to what McClellan played this past year. Going to be hand in the ground, but kind of a versatile guy that can play a lot of different roles on the defensive line. Um, I know he's a 4-star guy in terms of our rankings, but he's not really talked about a whole lot, right? I don't think I've
Right,
seen a Quincy Wiggins mention on our message board since he committed.
right.
So I'm really impressed with him. To go the negative route, I think you're right. Like, but I also hope that Yakiri Walker kind of takes the same approach that I talked about Isaiah Lewis in our last episode,
Right,
taking this to heart and saying, you know what, screw all you guys.
right. I'll show
I'm
you.
gonna be I'm gonna be a good player here at Colorado, and um, goes and has a great career as above. And obviously,
Yeah,
everybody listening to this program, hopefully, unless you're a hater, like is really rooting for success, even if you've had doubts upon their commitment. I yeah, that's kind of the breakdown there. I cannot. I got some tape of Samuel Okunlole at Pitt from his huddle practice. Oh my gosh, that guy gets off the edge so quick. It,
Samuel Okunlola from
yeah,
Pitt. Yeah,
yeah, he's gonna
and
be
well,
day one pass rush situations. You send him. I said that on 24/7 Sports national broadcast. Like when you're in those situations, I don't know if there's a better player in the country based on what I just saw the other day.
when I would expand on that if somebody asked me about the group that I'm most excited to watch. Obviously, offensive line with some of these guys we brought in. We'll touch on that in a minute. But with Okunlola and Wiggins, and then I'm gonna touch on a guy we talked on in our last episode was Nikhil Webb-Walker. Nikhil Webb-Walker and Quincy Wiggins give us two guys in that sort of size range, that J.J. Watt size range, that we haven't had that in a while. That 6'5", 6'6", 260-pounder with athleticism. And I'm really excited to see what we do with that, because you can use those guys in such a wide variety of ways. And, you put them across on the opposite side from each other even, or from Okunlola, and you get some real options. Our edge unit compared to last year, I think, is significantly improved.